algorithm. This is your Judge Al Reynolds, and welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion, the courtroom where you, the people, will have a voice along with my legal beagles. Tonight we have attorney Symone Redwine and criminal defense attorney Brion Ross.
Hello.
We're going to break down some of the hottest trending legal cases in the media. So get your pen and pad ready, and let's get this court in order. All right, first up tonight, we're going to talk about NBA Youngboy and how he has more than gun charges to be worried about, but now he also has forgery of prescription. Yes, you heard me right. Not only was he in house arrest in Utah for gun charges, but now we have forgery of prescriptions. Attorney Symone Redwine, please tell me, how do you go from being on house arrest for gun charges and now you have more criminal charges for forgery of prescription?
Kentrell. Okay, Kentrell is a special kind of stupid. He just can't seem to get it together. Now, Kentrell started out, the whole reason he's in Utah is because he was on house arrest from a 2020 offense where while shooting a music video in Texas, police pulled up to the scene and found that there were a number of drugs and guns. He is a felon, so he was not allowed to have guns, but drugs and guns, and more than 16 people were arrested. He's actually awaiting trial on that matter, but on house arrest. Now, he told the court, hey, court, please give me permission to go to Utah where I have a mentor there, where I will be away from the people that have been bad influences, etc. Well, it looks like when he took his behind to Utah, he got so bored up there with the wind, with the mountains and the horses, the plains, and the white people that he just said, you know what, I'm bored. Let's sell some drugs. So that's what he's been doing. So he's got a number of offenses. And bailiff, if we could put those offenses on the screen, I can run through them for you. But the gist of how he was caught is he became so addicted, it appears, to what's used in lean, which is codeine, promethazine, a variety of things. He became so addicted to those drugs that he pretended to be a doctor, calls into a pharmacy, and using the identity of other people, attempts to get prescriptions filled for controlled substances. So his charges include pattern of unlawful activity. That's likely the making the calls, the faking the identities, to using fake identities to attempt to get the prescriptions, as well as procuring or attempting to procure drugs, identity fraud for pretending to be both a doctor, and then some reports also say he was pretending to be the person to pick up the prescription, possession of other controlled substances, and possession of a dangerous weapon by someone who was not allowed, which is him being a felon. So it looks like the book's going to get thrown at him, and his 11 children are really going to miss him when he gets sent to the slammer. Them, and the one person that probably won't miss him will be Floyd Mayweather Sr.
Right. Attorney Brion Ross, tell me, you're a criminal defense attorney. If this was your client and you already had him on home arrest in Utah, the judge was already nice to him and granting him the ability to go be in a state with his mentor on gun charges. What is he thinking? Is the court going to be even harder on him now because he was already under criminal supervision? Now he's gone out here and created a whole host of new charges. What does this say about his previous case and these charges being added onto the gun charges?
In all likelihood, his freedom, if you want to call it that, while staying in a $5.5 million mansion, will be revoked. His freedom will be revoked. He'll be brought back to whatever state he's under charge. I think it's either Louisiana or Texas, and he'll be placed in Texas. He'll be placed in a federal detention center because the judge will say, "Listen, I don't think you have the ability to stay out of these troubles. You probably have an addiction. You can come here and stay in jail, and we'll treat you in jail if we have those type of things." That's what's going to happen to him. I mean, it's unfortunate. The mansion looks fantastic. It's got 3 floors, rooms after rooms. Honestly, man, you should have become a ski instructor, okay? But unfortunately, the drugs have gotten to you. It's too much for you to handle, and you're going to wind up back in jail with your bond revoked.
Now, let me ask you this, Attorney Symone Redwine. If I was his attorney, I would argue that he has a drug addiction. and that, the drug addiction is what, clouded his vision or clouded his judgment. What would you be arguing if you were his attorney at this point? Because you can't argue the gun charges, right? But maybe you could say the reason for the forgery, the reason for all of these other activities is because of an addiction.
Absolutely. As someone who's been to rehab myself, hey, American Addiction Centers in Riverview, Florida, thank you very much. I would absolutely say that. I would say do not pass go to rehab first and deal with everything from there. Also, because rehab is not like what our parents dealt with, what you think of. It is wonderful now, thanks to former President Obama. Okay. The rehab I went to, and I didn't get to go for anything fun, like none of the illegal stuff. I went for my Adderall prescription, which is why I'm a loosey goose now. I'm scared to take my ADD meds. But now Obamacare actually forces them to cover rehab for addictions, and they pay as much as $1,000 a day. The rehab I went to was $8,000 a day. It was a resort. We had a pool. I had a chef. I was prettier than I'd ever been in my life. So I say that to say what I have noticed, and when you check into rehab, one of the first questions they ask you is, do you have any pending legal matters? And that is because they understand that you can either be court ordered or you go voluntarily, and then you can present your paperwork to the judge for leniency. And they actually help you go into sessions and have different experiences like that for that. So one, if you have a loved one that you feel like has an addiction that you would like to help try to encourage to rehab, feel free, hit me up, DM me. I have a lot of resources to help them do that. But number two, I just want to be very clear. It's a lovely experience in that it's the one time of your life that you can put yourself first and have insurance pay for it, or you can focus on yourself and what you need. Because the truth of the matter is, if he is addicted and he has very addictive behaviors, there's always a reason behind it. So if you only treat the symptom, which is I am drinking too much, I'm doing drugs, but you don't treat the cause, which is usually unresolved traumas of your life, you're just going to keep doing that behavior.
Wow.
Okay, Attorney Brian Ross, and thank you for sharing that, Attorney Symone Redwine. But Attorney Brian Ross, if you are defending, right? If you're representing NBA Youngboy, what do you deal with first? What do you say first? Like, because now you have all these charges against you that are unrelated to your gun charges. What I'm trying to get at is, how do you juggle all the charges now in addition to the gun charges?
I mean, you got to go with the oldest one first, right? You got to try it. NBA Youngboy has extreme luck. He was charged with a weapons charge in Los Angeles, California, 2021, went to trial and was acquitted, not guilty by a jury in 2022. He's been extremely fortunate. I went back and I read the release request by his attorney, and it has to be, here's your legal words of the day, you guys, narrowly tailored. They said the reason why he's going to Utah is because he has a mental health problem. He has depression. He has addiction to drug. And we put him in Salt Lake City where there's nothing to do except look at mountains. It'll bring peace to him. We can get him mental health counseling and all these things. And what did he do? He still ran into the drug problem. While I, as a criminal defense lawyer, wholly identify with drug rehab problems. And it goes back to when he was charged with robbery as a child and he beat him up in juvie. His grandmother died. I get all of that. That's exactly what I'm going to argue. He's going to run out of runway. That plane has to stop somewhere. And the judge is going to say, no matter where I put you, you find a way to access Xanax pills. He posted a picture of himself laying on the ground unconscious with Xanax pills next to him. Why would you post that? He's begging for help.
Was that why he was in Utah?
That's why he was in Utah. He was in Utah in this mansion, getting mental health therapies. Get out of the community where you come from. Stay away from LA. Stay out of New York. Put you in a conservative place. I mean, the mansion is out of control. Rooms after room, backs into a ski resort.
Who is this person? Is this like a Mormon cult leader? I don't know. I'm really
it's like the place where they picked. His lawyers did a good job. You should see the Zillow. Go look at it. It's crazy.
I thought it was a mentor's house. One of his mentor's house. Is that accurate?
They said it was the way they read it was his. Like he was maybe he was renting it, right? Maybe he was renting it.
Okay. Speaking of getting out of the country or getting away, we know that Tekashi 6ix9ine is in the Dominican Republic, but he still can't stay out of trouble. This time, it's not with the regular police, but with the money police. Attorney Brion Ross. Now, what we learned about the Tekashi 6ix9ine is that he got in trouble with, while he was in the Dominican Republic, the IRS got clearance to come to his house, confiscate several items along with several cars from his property while he was not even there. Is this legal?
First thing I want to know is, if you look at the cars, does he play paintball? It's a Bentley with paintball on the side. So I give him props on design. But yes, it's definitely legal. Once the IRS sends you some notices and says, we're going to seize your assets, you can do things. You can hire an accountant. You can hire a lawyer to delay, to modify. But if you don't respond to those documents, like any other police officer, they're going to show up to your front door, put a note on your car that says 0 taxes paid, and confiscate your vehicles. And that's what happened to him.
So how do they know what to confiscate?
Well, they can take whatever they want. They go through your background. Any attorney very quickly through LexisNexis or Westlaw, especially the government, could look up your assets and see what's titled in your name and your business. That's very easy to do. Once they figure that out, they go into federal court, they move for what's called a writ of possession, WRIT, a writ of possession. And they do it pursuant to failed taxes, standard form. They do 100 an hour all over this country.
Wait. Don't they have to have a trial first? You don't have to have a trial. Is this what they call civil asset forfeiture, Brian?
Yes, it is.
So Absolutely. They don't need a trial for that.
You can request a trial, but again, they send a civil asset forfeiture petition to your house. If you don't respond to that, you get a default, like anything else.
Like a default judgment. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so help me understand this, Attorney Ross. So when they come in, if I hear you correctly, they're coming in and looking for items that have value, right? That they obviously can then take and auction and sell so that it could offset his debt. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. They're going to take that Bentley. They're going to give him time. You have what's called a point of redemption. So he could go back and say, look, wait. Don't take my stuff. I just did Coachella. I made $10 million. You can have it all, and they'll give it all back to you. But if you don't do that before it's auctioned off, sorry, Charlie, you're out of luck.
Oh my gosh, guys, algoriters and everybody watching, y'all are my friends on the internet. We should plan a trip to the auction if there's anybody that cares about it. Because I know he's got bags in that house. He's got designer bags. Oh my gosh, girls, it's like going to a pawn shop, but like authentic. And if it's not authentic, we can sell our story to TMZ.
Order in the court, please. Order in the court. Please go take your Adderall to get you back. But just a side note, you do know that I am a celebrity auctioneer. I'm licensed in the state of Texas.
No way.
And I have reciprocity in other states. So anybody that needs a celebrity auctioneer, I'm more than well and able. It is
my dream to drive around in a paintball Bentley. I want to do that.
No, you can always repaint it. Anyway, back to the cases at hand. Okay, everybody, algoriters, if you're paying attention and you're listening and you're learning a lot, please put those wine glass emojis in the chat. Don't forget for Symone Redwine, for Attorney Redwine. Also, please don't forget to throw those briefcases in the chat for criminal defense attorney Brion Ross. And of course, as always, please throw those fax emojis in the chat for Al in the court of public opinion. All right, next up, everybody, attorneys, my legal beagles, Tiffany Haddish and Karen Huger are not the only ones getting DUIs. GloRilla was seen having a shaky time with her sobriety test. And not only was that, she had a wardrobe malfunction. And we got to see her new tits. All right, criminal defense attorney Brion Ross, what's going on here? And did they have a right to pull her over? Because according to her, she simply made a U-turn at a red light.
Well, anybody who's driven for longer than 15 minutes knows you cannot make a U-turn at a red light. You can turn right, but not left. The moment you make that left, you run that and you give the police probable cause to stop you for a traffic stop. At that point, it all spirals downhill. Bloodshot eyes, slurred speech, smell of alcohol or drugs on your person. At that point, they can ask you to get out of the car and submit DUI road exercises, which is what happened to GloRilla in this instance.
Attorney Symone Redwine, we know, according to the reports, that there was also smell of marijuana allegedly, and she admitted that she had been drinking earlier. Now, if she was your client attorney, Redwine, would you allow your client to say for record to a police officer that she had been drinking?
Hell no. I would say, girl, shut up. I love you, but it does you no good. These are not your friends. Number one, these are not your friends. The more information you volunteer, the more likely you are to go to jail. So I would say don't volunteer any of that. In fact, I was once pulled over while I was in law school. I was pulled over because I was exhausted after studying for a long time. And I remember the officer pulled me out of the car. He said, you know, I'm going to give you this sobriety test because he said I was in the middle of the lanes. It was a 2-lane road. And this was in Ackworth, Georgia. I was 5 minutes from my cousin's house where I live. And he was saying like, oh, I think you're drunk. I said, I'm not drunk. I'm a law student. I'm tired from studying. He said, how many drinks have you had? I said, none. And I said, do I have to answer these questions under the law? And he was like, what? Why would you ask me that? I said, I'm only seeking to do what I'm required to under the law. So if I'm not required to answer these questions, I would like to remain silent. He got an attitude. And then he said, do you want to submit to a screening, a drunk screening?
Breathalyzer.
No, not even before that, he asked me to follow his eyes. And I was like, I wear contacts. Excuse me. And I was like, I wear contacts because it is true. If you wear contacts, this little eyeball thingy don't work. And he was so aggravated. So he was like, do you want to do a breathalyzer? And I said, my constitutional law professor told me to say no. And that was it. But I just play dumb and shut the hell up. Play dumb, shut the hell up. No, don't do that, GloRilla. The best thing she had going for her is that her real name is Gloria Hallelujah. That's her real name. Gloria Hallelujah. So at the end of the day, she's blessed and highly favored, and it's going to work itself out because her name is Gloria Hallelujah and her titties popped out. That's how.
All right. I get it. All right. So next up, NBA player, what is his name? Jontay Porter is banned for life, jeopardizing a possible $2 million contract with the NBA after he was caught gambling. And listen, not just gambling, but intentionally underperforming and sitting out of certain games so that his gambling under or over, was to his benefit. Attorney Brion Ross, tell me exactly what happened in this particular case. And why did the NBA respond so harshly to the tune of banning him for life from playing in the NBA?
The NBA is all about protecting its brand, just like the NFL, just like Major League Baseball banned, you might not remember, Pete Rose for life for gambling on baseball. I mean, this is a big deal. There's an undercurrent of gambling that the NBA is finding out amongst some of its players. They haven't alleged that the players are actually throwing games as they are alleging in Jontay Porter's situation, but they're monitoring it and they're sending a message. And that's what Jontay Porter's lifetime ban is about, sending a message to the league that if we catch you, you are out forever. And why? You can't have a player missing jump shots and foul shots to try and dictate the outcome of the game so that he can win, or worse, the bookie he's in business with can make money on gambling. He's throwing games, and that's the problem, that they caught him in the process of doing that and suspended him for life.
Attorney Symone Redwine, you're a pretty clever lawyer. If you were representing Porter, what would be your defense?
My client suffers from a mental illness. He is clearly slow. He is slow. He's delayed. He has CTE. One time he was on the JV football team. He played cornerback. Like honestly, this is indefensible. And particularly because he was being paid a good salary. He was making in the millions. And the antics that he's accused of gained him, I think it was approximately like $50,000. It was like $50,000 or $75,000, right? It's peanuts compared to his livelihood. So it makes me think, did he have a gambling addiction? Did he perhaps have a drug or a bigger addiction where he owed someone else some money? Because this isn't making sense. This math is simply not mathing. But in the end, it seems like this is a reasonable punishment for someone who did something so stupid.
So let me ask you this, Attorney Ross. How does the NBA find out that you're throwing the games? That's number one in gambling. And what do they use as proof to find, like in this particular case, do we know under the underpinnings of, did they hire somebody to pretend like a bookie and he made a deal with a bookie, an undercover officer of some sort? Do we know of any of the inside stories? How does the NBA set you up to show your hand that you're doing something criminal?
The NBA in this instance said that licensed bookies, licensed betting companies, told them that there was something funny about the algorithm about this player. Remember, there are people who are allowed to bet. You can bet on sports now. NBA players are not allowed to bet on basketball at all. So all of a sudden they think, well, we're going to win this game by 1.5 points, 2.5 points. And this player is playing in a different way and they're starting to lose money on it. So they're not stupid. They're going to go back and backtrack and figure out where the discrepancy was at. And they handed that information over to the NBA, who launched its own investigation. Basically, the betting houses snitched him out.
Wow. So help me understand this, because I think a lot of our viewers and listeners could actually learn from this. Now, are you saying to me that these licensed, what do you call them again?
DraftKings, right? We've all heard of DraftKings. The
Shout out to DraftKings. We wouldn't mind if you want to sponsor an episode.
But so what you're basically telling me, it's their business, right? To through their analytics to track everybody that participates on their platform. And if they see something unusual, they are the ones that then can take that information to the NBA. How does the NBA know that they're not trying to, get more money for their platform?
Well, I think this.
Go ahead, Ramon.
Thank you. In this specific instance, what it was is there was someone who made a bet. The bet was like 51,000, and it was a parlay. And if it had gone the traditional way, basically if he had not sat out the game and been injured, etc., that person would have lost. But that person ended up winning 1.1 million.
Wow.
That was what triggered. So it was a $50,000 bet that ended up winning 1.8 million, 1.1 million, something like that. And that's what initially triggered it. And then they started investigating, and they saw that there was a number of bets that particularly one based on his conduct and his behavior. And because of the different algorithms and things that they use to track betting, they were able to pinpoint it to his behavior. And that's what opened up the investigation.
The house always wins. And when the house loses, they start asking questions. Wow. You're at the blackjack table and you haven't lost in 3 hours. They're going to send some people over to kind of look at you and see why you're winning. That's what happened to him.
All right, last up for tonight, CEO of Universal Music Group, Lucian Grainge, is named as an accomplice in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking lawsuit. Yes, you heard me correctly, everybody. He's named as an accomplice in the sex trafficking lawsuit with P. Diddy. Attorney Symone Redwine, wow, this is very damaging. What does this mean?
Now, the first time I heard this, I thought, what is this and bullshit? But then I looked a bit deeper. And the reason I felt that way is because, remember, this is a civil case. There is no such thing as an accomplice in a civil case. Accomplice is a criminal matter that I'm going to toss this to Brion to explain further. But here, effectively, what Little Rod is saying is that the offenses that he's accusing Diddy of is that this other gentleman, the president of UMG, was his co-conspirator, that together he enabled him, because we've now learned that it wasn't Diddy's money that was funding a lot of this. It was the money of other entities, from Diageo, from the liquor company, from UMG, the record company. That money was funneling the yachts, the recording studio, all of this behavior. So Brion, in this context, what kind of trouble do you think UMG's president could be in if he's in fact found to be an accomplice.
Now, hold on, Attorney Redwine. You're confusing me. You're confusing me in my court. Hold on. Order in my court. Order in the court. Now, I'm confused now. Now, he's being accused of being an accomplice. You're saying you can't be an accomplice. We know that this is a civil case. You're saying you can't be an accomplice in a civil case. But now you're, okay, somebody.
What I'm saying is.
Order in my court, please. Let me get my question out. Somebody, Attorney Brion Ross, explain to me why she's saying this is a civil case. We know that this is a civil case. Why is she saying to me that an accomplice cannot be named in a civil case, but he clearly is being named an accomplice in this case? Are they moving this to the criminal side, or what's going on, Attorney Ross? You got to help me out here.
Okay, remember, there's two parts to this. There's this civil side where little Rodney Jones sued him and named all these people. And then there's the following act of where the FBI and Homeland Security and all these government agencies, LAPD, Miami-Dade PD, all raided all of Diddy's items. And when they got there, we don't know what they found. But after they found something, he's now named as an accomplice. Now, there's two accomplice theories, but they really run parallel. One puts you in jail, one you got to pay money, but they're really the same thing. You could be an accomplice in a civil theft. You could be an accomplice in a civil robbery. There's things that happen. You're an accomplice. You be an accomplice in civil murder. You helped them do it. The thing about accomplice is, people, is that whatever happens to the primary also happens to the accomplice. So if Diddy owes $30 million, they can break parts of that up and attribute part of that to the UMG CEO.
Wow. Okay, now I get it.
In the civil theory, they got to break it down. The criminal, you can be charged the same way.
So I'm going to say this, and it is alleged, there is rumor that the word on the street, whatever we want to call it, alleged, rumor, word on the street, is that maybe after these raids, some of that private camera got footage of this particular CEO doing some very bad stuff in order to be named as an accomplice. Is this a fair assessment, Attorney Redwine?
I think that's very fair. I think it is very reasonable to expect that, for one, the civil attorneys may be prompted of upcoming criminal charges before the rest of the public. Yeah. And that is likely the case when the civil attorneys and their clients are cooperating with the government. And so when that happens, you'll get, I've gotten calls that say, hey, I just want to let you know, thank you for the evidence that you provided us. This is coming down the pipeline. We just need your client prepared in case, we need you a follow-up interview, whatever the case. So I think you're absolutely right.
This is very interesting.
And Al, if I can just say one thing. We know that Cassie settled her case with Diddy. We know that Cassie is cooperating with federal agencies and providing them information.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
Who knows what they saw?
Where this came from.
Where this
Got
came
it.
from.
Got it. Now, this is when it gets really sticky. All right.
And to to that, I just want to say, because many people have asked, well, how can Cassie, participate in this way if she signed a non-disclosure and settlement agreement, blah, blah, blah. We all know that has nothing to do with criminal. You can sign it on the civil side and move on. But more importantly, I believe that we call it a settlement package on the civil side. The same settlement package that Cassie's attorneys gave Diddy's lawyers that ultimately had them settle within a day of the civil suit being filed, right? That same package, they sent a copy to the feds. That's always what we do.
Ooh.
That's how this happened.
All right. See, let's put those red wine emojis in the chat for Attorney Symone Redwine. Those briefcase in the chat for criminal defense attorney Brion Ross. And don't forget my fax emojis for me with the court of public opinion. All right, everybody, it's that time of the show where we, the attorney and the judge, give our ruling. All right, first up, criminal defense attorney Brion Ross, NBA Youngboy, is he guilty or not guilty for a double offense?
He's guilty. Unfortunately, this young man has got to deal with some serious legal problems. I don't know what he's going to do. It's a big deal.
Right.
All right, Attorney Symone Redwine, are you throwing him down the hatchet as well? Is he guilty or not guilty?
guilty of something. He's guilty of at least one of those charges. He's got a bunch. I believe there's over 6 to 12. Some of them he's guilty of. Yeah.
All right. The judge here, Al Reynolds, is finding NBA Youngboy guilty. Guilty as charged. All right. Tekashi 6ix9ine is not even in the United States. He's in the Dominican Republic, but not the regular police, but the money police has come to take his possessions. All right, attorney Symone Redwine, is he guilty of not paying his taxes or innocent or not guilty?
I'm going to that auction and I want everything but that synthetic wig. Guilty. I don't want that wig.
Guilty?
Ew.
All right, criminal defense attorney Brion Ross, isn't this in your state of Florida? Is it Florida that they came
Lakewood,
after him?
Florida. Yep, they sure did.
Guilty or not guilty?
I'm going with not guilty. I don't believe the IRS has the right to just come take his assets without some sort of trial. I don't know whether he responded to it or not. So I'm a presumption of innocence guy. I'm going to wait until he's proven guilty. I'm going not guilty.
Okay, not guilty. Well, the judge, Al Reynolds, is finding him, Tekashi 6ix9ine, guilty. Because he's been guilty of everything else. And if we look at tires, he is guilty.
Paintball Bentleys for everybody.
Look, next time,
Tekashi
Tekashi 6ix9ine, be sure to respond to the IRS. I tell this to everybody. When they send a letter, pay attention. Just all you got to do is go on the record, reaching out to them to try to bring resolve, and they won't end up coming to your house and repossessing stuff like this. Next up, we have GloRilla got charged a DUI. Attorney Brion Ross, is she guilty or not guilty?
One thing she's guilty of is looking fantastic. We're going to start there. But the second thing she's guilty of is turning left through a red light. Don't do it, people. Take an Uber. She's probably guilty.
Guilty. All right, Symone Redwine, attorney Symone Redwine, counselor, what are your thoughts? Guilty or not guilty?
As a good Catholic girl I am, Gloria Hallelujah is innocent. She's innocent.
All right, in the court of public opinion, the judge, Al Reynolds, is finding GloRilla guilty. The last thing that you ever want to admit to when you've been pulled over by a cop is that you've been drinking. Especially after you do a U-turn. All right, next up, we have NBA player Jontay Porter. Jontay Porter is being charged or banned for life. Does the NBA have a right to find him guilty or not guilty? Criminal defense attorney Brion Ross, is he guilty or not guilty?
Oh, he's guilty. He's guilty. He did it. Those Las Vegas betting houses are experts at finding out why they lost money. They got the evidence. The NBA got him. He's done.
Symone Redwine, what are your thoughts? Guilty? Not guilty.
Mental health.
So handsome. I'll write you in prison. I love your bone structure and your curl pattern, but you're guilty.
All right, the judge, Al Reynolds, is finding Jontay Porter guilty. Guilty is charged. There's too much digital footprint here, Mr. Porter. And, you know, when you're swaying big money in dollars like that and you're not covering your footprints, you get found guilty in the court of public opinion. Last up, Diddy Do It's accomplice now. They're calling him accomplice, Lucian Grainge. Is he guilty or not guilty for helping Diddy with the sex trafficking? Attorney Symone Redwine, what are your thoughts on this?
Guilty.
Oh, that's pretty strong.
In my waiting to exhale voice.
All right, attorney, criminal defense attorney Brion Ross, talk to us. Is Lucian Grainge guilty or not guilty?
Wasn't the CEO of Empire Records named Lucius Lyon? Didn't they have a similar name? I mean, he's guilty by namesake alone. Like, you got to get a different name. You got to change your name to like Tom Harris or something, because you're party with Diddy, you're going down with Diddy. You're down.
All right. All right. Here in the court of public opinion, the judge has ruled not guilty. Not guilty. That's right. You heard me. Not guilty, because we have not seen all of the facts. I refuse to believe that this CEO was this crazy to be a part of a sex trafficking ring with P. Diddy Combs. All right, algoritmos, that's going to be the conclusion of another one of our shows, The Court of Public Opinion. If you enjoyed tonight's show, be sure to put those red wine emoji cups in the chat, those briefcase and those fax emojis. And we'll see you back here next week on Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern. Have a good night, everybody. Order in the court, order in the court. This is Al Reynolds, the judge from the Court of Public Opinion, and I want you in my courtroom every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern. And listen, you better be on time. Follow the address or link below, or catch me on my YouTube channel at The Al Reynolds, because if you're late, you just might be issued a bitch warrant for your arrest.